Hi there, what is? And welcome to this new live stream on the Uruguayan Heroes YouTube channel. And today I'm joined by Alessandro. Alessandro, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. There's a lot to talk about. I can't wait
That's
to
for
get into
sure.
it. And we were just saying that finally we wouldn't get these type of 55 player lists with Tavares. So Alonso's at least keeping us in business.
Yeah, I mean that's it. Obviously, it's different now because it's the turnover is so short. But this gives us still a lot of things to discuss. A lot of young players also being called up, and yeah, I will get let's get the squad straight onto the screen. I think it's the best, just to immediately have a look at them. And most people or people that are here or will tune in, they will have obviously seen this. But anyway, so 55 men, which is a lot. Um, and I'm not going to mention every one of them, but I'm just going to pick out some names that there are kind of surprises. So, well, the goalkeepers, I think, to be honest, I expected Martin Silva or Martin Copagna instead of the Gaston Oliveira,
Mhm.
Oliveira. But anyway, they will be cut off from the squad um, for sure. So, yeah. And then in defense, I think Santiago Bueno and Gaston Alvarez both playing uh, now in La Liga and doing well. I mean, I think you probably are delighted by this decision as well. These young players that will,
Bueno,
yeah,
Bueno in particular, he's a direct product of the Proceso. Obviously, he played for the
yeah,
under 20s, and I know he's been mentored in particular by Lugano, and he has those leadership characteristics as well. So him being included, he's not going to make the final 26, but it is as you know, as Cáceres, as Godin, they start to fade out. You're going to see younger guys like Bueno come into the team.
yeah. I mean, I think it was. I'm not sure if you know the account, but Football Talent Scout is a really big account,
Hmm.
and he was mentioning to me that maybe Bueno is a nice outside pick. Now that many of our players or many of our top center backs having some difficulty in terms of injuries, and I thought, well, yeah, he's a good option, but probably too early. But it's nice to see him here, like
Very,
Alvarez as well.
very
Yeah,
raw, but it's definitely a wild card.
yeah, and you never know because Arajo, we hope he's there. Jimenez, you never know what's gonna happen. Coates, even though he's not majorly injured, he's still injured now. And Godin and Cáceres, yeah, I mean, you're not betting your house on them at the moment, so you never know what it comes down to. But let's hope this will not be the case. Now the fullbacks, I think, um, pretty clear who's going to be chosen. That's Damian Suarez and Varela, and most probably Oliveira with Vinha. But it's good to see some names on there. Was some different names like Federico Pereira, Jose Luis Rodriguez, also part of the Proceso, um, and Espino, a bit of a late bloomer. The fact that he's on there is also nice to see. But
Olasa as well.
yeah, I mean, we've been calling for him for many years, and now obviously the situation is different because Oliveira has come onto the scene and really consolidated himself. But do you see any surprises? Do you see any surprise fullback call up, or do you think it's as
No,
clear as yeah,
obviously Oliveira is the definitive answer, but in my opinion, there is debate to be had whether Viña makes the squad. I've never been convinced by Viña in a La Celeste jersey, and both under Tavares and the minutes that he's gotten under Alonso as well. I mean, he's not been overly impressive with Roma either. Um, but I would definitely say a player who's been consistently performing in La Liga, Espino, for example, would be somebody who I would kind of like to see included. But I think all signs kind of point towards Vina being the second left back option.
yeah, I think you're right. I mean, that's the thing. We have to make a separation between what we want or what we would think and what Alonso will do. And I think
Mhm.
Vinha will absolutely go. I believe Piqueres and Espino should be ahead of him, but
Piqueras is another one, and it is a great example. I personally, right now, if I had to choose two fullbacks, it would be Piqueras and Oliveira. Obviously, Oliveira being the starter.
yeah.
Piqueras as well. His physicality is tremendous. He plays obviously in a very physical league, such as the Brazilian league, but he's a towering left back.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think for Uruguay, he had this one really good game. I think it was against
Mhm.
Bolivia, and obviously it's Bolivia, we know that. But um, yeah, I mean, these are two good backup options, obviously. So yeah, moving on to the midfield. I mean, many familiar names, and I think the midfield is probably really settled because of Salazar, who was someone that was mentioned as a possibility. He is injured and he probably
Mhm.
will not be able to make it for the World Cup in the case that
Mhm.
he would be called up. So the midfield is pretty clear. We see all the familiar names, and then we see some backup names, obviously in case there is injuries and because there are 55 men, which are Carballo, the national midfielder, Cesar Arajo doing well with Orlando, Fabricio Diaz, the under 20 captain, all interesting names, and also Fernando Gorarian. Um, First, what I would like to say about this, because I think Gorarian is a good player for Santos Laguna, but I just cannot believe how he is being picked ahead of someone like Leonardo Fernandez, who is like a star in Mexico, and certainly because Gorarian doesn't, yeah, I mean, doesn't
I,
bring
I,
anything different.
I totally agree. At the very least, Leo Fernandez should be in this 55.
Yeah, I
If
thought,
you're telling me right now to pick 55 of the best Uruguayan footballers on the planet, he's on that list. I don't think that's even a debate. I think it's objective fact. And there are statistics to back that up in the Mexican League as well. Um, these are players, the players that you just listed there towards the end, these are players who 4 or 5 years ago would have been called up under Tavares, and not just because it was Tavares, but because the midfield was not as competitive as it is now. I honestly think this is the most competitive it has been, and there's actual squad depth to the midfield, and there is versatility in what Alonso can do with that midfield for the first time. It's not just have two players there to sit in a pivot like the Diego Perez at Rios kind of double pivot and just kind of be a Pac-Man and kind of sweep and do tackles and all that stuff. No, there's elegance, there's class, and most important, and what you need for a deep tournament run, there's depth.
yeah, no, that's absolutely true, and it's marvelous to see, obviously, and we take it for granted now because yeah,
Mhm.
it's what it is. But when you look up past squads, in 2018 even, when some of these names were already coming up, it's a huge difference. Yeah, and moving on to the final line, I would say. So with the wingers and attackers, many names: Pelistri, Conobio, Rossi, Ocampo, Torres, and Terrans, which were probably the options for the wings. And then an Arajo, Maximiliano Arajo. Then two number 10s. Obviously, they can play on different positions, but De La Cruz and Arrasqueta. And like I said, I would love to have seen Leo Fernandez be on this list, even though he probably will not make it, just to bit of a reward for the season he's having.
Mhm.
And then the strikers, let's just name him: Suarez, Cavani, Darwin, Gomez, then Satriano, Alvarez Martinez, Jonathan Rodriguez, no Brian Rodriguez, as you can see, obviously, Nico Lopez and Thiago Borbas. So I will return to the how do you say, to the live chat and to the stream. We can discuss a little bit because the strikers is a huge, well, a huge area of the squad where there's one spot left basically because three are just fixed: Cavani, Suarez, and Darwin. And then the fourth striker, there are many names you can consider. And yeah, I would first like just to welcome everyone who's here. And Leburu, hello, man, good to see you here. As goes for everyone else who's here. And also, I would like to ask, what are your impressions of the squad? I mean, there are many names. Is there someone that you feel has missed out? This is a question, by the way, to you, Alessandro, but also everyone watching. Um, or is there someone that you maybe are really glad to see him there and you didn't expect it, maybe? So yeah,
Borbas. That's the
Borbas.
one. That's the one. He's had a tremendous season in the Uruguayan league. Obviously, all the headlines are going to be grabbed by Suarez, and rightly so. But this one's gone on. If Suarez wasn't there, the headlines would be about Borbas. He's been terrific and excellent. A lot of people in the Uruguayan media, a lot of tweets that I've seen is reports are suggesting that Alonso already has 90 to 95% of the 26 player squad already determined. Already picked. So this leads me to believe that a lot of this list is very much symbolic, very much a confidence boost, and sort of a message, a long-term message that there's some planning taking place that's going to go beyond the World Cup. So it's going to be interesting to see who those last few remaining spots go to. But I'm not expecting anything crazy or anything that's going to deviate from the call-up list that we've already seen in the past year from Alonso.
No, I think you are probably right. And obviously, it's not a wise thing to do anyway. I mean, for example, someone I believe shouldn't be on the list is Cáceres. I've come to agree now that Vecino will be there, and maybe it's okay. But I mean, so but he will not make these controversial decisions because he probably believes they should be there, but also they're really a part of the group. That's true. I mean, whatever you can say about Caceres, and there's many things to say. He is obviously a big part of the national team. He's been there
Mhm.
for I think it's now probably 14 years. So yeah, but you did to get back to the question. The fourth striker is Borbas, or do you think, or was the answer of the question to that you were surprised?
No, I'm gonna answer. I completely forgot to answer it. The final striker, it's such a tough question.
Yeah, it is.
I give it to Satriano, and that's just my gut. And I've been very impressed with his development over the last year. But there's a hunger there that I think can be sort of an X factor when coming on late in a World Cup. Um, but we'll see. We'll see what he decides. But that's my personal pick.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I was probably on the same line of thought when it came to Satriano a couple of months ago. But I mean, I've not watched all Empoli games. I mean, that will be a bit too much. But I've watched a bit, and I mean, he's a good footballer, but he has been quite wasteful for Empoli, and that's not the defining factor for him to be there or not.
Mhm.
But it's a difficult one still. I mean, Augusto Alvarez Martinez, he has done really well with this playing time he has gotten for Sassuolo, and it's not been a lot. Um, but what we obviously have to assess is we need to find a striker that would be something different to the strikers we already have.
That's exactly what I was gonna
Yeah,
say. That's a great point.
so that's obviously why someone like Maxi is something I would discard. Not like he's the same or similar to the other players, but he has certain his qualities, which is holding up and play, being physical. This is a quality that Darwin, even Suarez still, and Cavani can all do. So Satriano is therefore an interesting example because he's more like a 9.5. He's more like he's a mix between a number 10 and a 9. So that's also why I believe still Satriano is probably the one I would take, but it's a difficult one, obviously,
And
because
that's what led me to believe it too. Is you have to look for something different. You can't take four strikers with similar characteristics. You need to have some sort of card up your sleeve when it's, for example, in a World Cup or in extra time. You need something to throw on that's different to what you already have on the field. That would probably be the best option as well. The same thing with Martinez, right? He's more of an. I know he's not super tall, but his game is very much aerially defined. I mean, you saw some of the headers that he put away in the Serie A this season were wow, some like terrific headers way beyond a player of his age, right? You've already got Cavani and Darwin to
yeah,
for as an aerial threat.
yeah, and Nico Lopez also someone on there will not be there, and he shouldn't
Mhm.
be because he's hardly playing for Tigres, which is a shame, obviously.
Mhm.
Borbas, like you mentioned, really interesting player, will not be there as well. I mean, that's true. But yeah, he's probably going to move to Europe soon. And that's another striker. I mean, that's the beauty about it right now. I mean, we're not talking about Matias Areso because he's not there, because he's not playing at Granada. But you can argue this is the biggest talent that Uruguay have had since Federico Valverde came from Peñarol. I mean, in terms of the hype or the profile he has, and that says volumes about the depth. But okay, what I thought we would do today, and obviously announced it on Twitter for the people that saw the tweet, that we would make our 26-man squad. And this is possible because Transfer marked a really good website for stats,
Wow.
values, and everything basically. Um, well, as something as a tool in which you can make this. The only thing which is a shame is you cannot include Arajo. So they and obviously that is for a reason because Arajo, if you are taking the estimations for what they should be, he shouldn't be at the World Cup. But I mean, it's Uruguayan and he wants to be there, so we will
He'll
see.
be there.
Yeah,
If
I hope so. I mean,
he'll be
and
there, but whether he plays the first couple of
no,
games,
that's
that's a
true.
debate.
Yeah, I don't know that either, for sure. Let's have a look at some comments. Danny F says, "Good to see you, Danny. Facundo Torres won't make it," and I think you're probably right in this because the indications that this is the case have been there for the past two international breaks, and certainly the last one when it was
Mhm.
really the moment to pick him. Something else, by the way, which is really good, is Brano Campo. His last game for Cadiz was really really
Wow.
impressive. I didn't watch the game myself, but obviously you read a lot about people who are there who did watch the
There's the
game.
one clip on Twitter that's been
Yeah,
going around where he just cuts through.
from the own box, indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really no, that's true. I watched some highlights, but yeah, he's had a really good performance, and he needed it as well to really make a name for himself
Mhm.
there. But yeah, he's someone, for example, probably will go instead of Torres. And whether you agree with it or not, it's certainly falls in line with Alonso's selection process of characteristics. Because Ocampo has these characteristics of the speed, the vertical runs, and really also a good work rate, by the way. And Torres is more like someone who wants it at his feet on constantly, and it's nothing against it. And maybe that's also why Leonardo Fernandez is also someone who is maybe not being chosen here. But anyway, maybe I'm looking a bit too much into this.
Mhm.
But yeah, and also Godin and Katia is out, Gaston Alvarez and Cabrera in. Well, that's the thing. We're gonna try and make our decisions, and probably we have to decide now what we are gonna do. Are we gonna make it as we are, as if we are the managers, or are we gonna make it thinking about what Alonso would do? What would you
That
say?
is a very, very good question. You know what? I think we should do it as if we're going to do it because I think it's already kind of 90 to
Yeah,
95% confirmed who's going to be there, but maybe
that's
it
true.
might be better to frame it as if we were the ones who's our
No,
26.
I agree. I agree. We will do it like this, and we have to come to some consensus. Obviously, we will see how it goes. Well, I think we're on the same line when it comes to the Uruguay national team.
Mhm.
But anyway, so for the ones watching in the chat, um, when I like at the stream or at do the share screen to have the transfer market site on the stream. I will not be able to watch the streams, but I will have a look at my mobile to go through your comments so that you can also have your say, and then we will interact with this because obviously this is not like it's not about the two of us making the squads, but mostly like we all make the squad together.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I will add the share screen again and then go to this. Only problem is that you already have this advertisements obviously which are on the site, but they have to make the money as well, so that's okay. Okay, so the goalkeepers. I mean, it's probably the easiest one of all. Um, but maybe not. We will see. We will see if we have if we have an opinion that differs. Rochette is in, obviously. That's clear. Um,
Muslera has to go.
Muslera as well, even though he's not playing. I mean, you're not going to let him out if you're picking
It,
three goalkeepers.
it's the mentorship. It's somebody who's been to World Cups who is going to be
Yeah,
mentoring somebody who's never been to a World Cup.
no, that's it. I mean, he's going to be there regardless. And then the final option is maybe more interesting, obviously because there are more choices. For me, Sebastian Sosa is the one who's going. If we are
That
being
I
Alonso,
agree.
but maybe you prefer another one to go. I mean, there are options. I mean, it's not like they're staring in your face.
Santiago Mil has been impressive, and he's a good penalty kick stopper.
Yeah,
That's
that's true.
that's something in a World Cup where you want to have. Franco Israel would be a pick that would be one for the future, right? You're picking
Yeah,
him, and that would be a statement because he's playing in Europe. I know he hasn't had the best performances for Sporting, but keep in mind that when he has played for Sporting, they've played a man down. He's had to come in the worst circumstances possible to
yeah,
play, right?
that's true. True.
But he was at Juve and he was highly regarded at Juve for a reason. So I think it would be between Santiago Mele and Franco Israel, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I probably like this more as well because, um, you know what, Uruguay normally in the World Cups they have the third keeper is really an experienced one mostly,
Mm.
and yeah, that's okay, and I mean that's no problem with it, but there's no real use to it. There's certainly not when your second goalkeeper at this moment is also a really an experienced one. So I would probably also tend to Mele and Israel, and obviously because Mele has more first team football experience, I would probably go with Mele. Yeah. So are we going for Santiago Mele or?
I was going to say too. Also, um, the third goalkeeper. Do you want to give the spot to a goalkeeper who is more likely to become the Uruguay number one? or who has
Yeah,
a better chance of becoming the Uruguay number one in the future? Santiago Miller or Franco Israel? I think most would say that Franco Israel has the
that's true.
higher potential, higher ceiling to become that number one. Maybe we might be getting more out of bringing him as a third goalie to at least get a taste of what's going on.
That's a good point. That's a good point, to be honest, because you can look at it two ways. Why your third goalkeeper should be there, probably because the three goalkeepers together have a connection, and this is the case with Sosa, Muslera, and Rochet, because they have been doing this now for the last few international breaks.
Mhm.
But the approach we take is obviously looking at what this player or what it brings to the player, and also what this player potentially in the future brings to Uruguay.
Mhm.
So in this case, Israel is probably the best bet because Mele, although he's
Mhm.
done well for Union, um, the higher potential is certainly of Israel. So I think we're gonna make our decision and say Israel. Although Danny F says Mele, which also something to say for, but Danny, I will promise we will go with decision of you later on. But now it's Israel. So okay,
Yeah, that's a good point. There's the squad is not lacking connection or experience. There's experience and connections all across
yeah.
different positions, anyways.
And also there's I mean Uruguay. Some national teams are like this, but for Uruguay, it will not the failings in the tournament will not come down to the disconnect between the players. That's like
Agreed.
that's, that's something maybe for France. That's the
Yeah,
case. That,
exactly.
yeah. Okay. Defenders, like I said, Arajo is not a pick because yeah, he's well, it's a big injury. So
Mhm.
we will we will do this like he's not available. So I will just pick some names which are clear already.
Mhm.
So Jimenez, Coates, Oliveira. I will leave Fina for a bit because there's still some discussion to be held. I think Godin, although there has been some questions surrounding him, I think we both agree. Certainly, when you have 26 men, he should be there, right? Or
He's
no?
lucky. He's lucky. There's 26.
Yeah,
Godin won the lottery this year. That 26 players. But even then, though, what is his health? What is the state of his health? Because if he can't even play, then he shouldn't even go.
no, I agree. I mean, he's just. I think it's like in the last few days he's returned to full training. And he's also in the
Mhm.
squad for Philip Sarsfield. But yeah, he's hardly played this
But the problem
season.
is Vélez only has one game left in the season.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's true. Yeah, that's really true. There was also, yeah. I mean, so he has one preparation game basically. Um, so no, it's not good. No, I mean, but still, even though I still think he should be there because he's
Yeah,
our
I
captain.
agree. I agree.
Um,
You got to give up a spot, and
yeah,
it will go to Godin.
yeah, I agree. So let's have a look. Guillermo Farella also. I mean,
Agreed.
we will be there. I'm looking for Damian right now, but let's have a look. Maybe I've missed him already.
Damian Suarez.
Let's have a look. He's being disrespected there.
Oh my goodness. He's not even.
He should be there.
Huh. Maybe he's put as a midfielder.
Okay, could be the case, but
Maybe because I
um,
can't imagine him not
no, man, you should be
being
there.
ahead of some of these players here.
No,
No,
you
no
are
offense to some of these players.
okay. But anyway, we. Oh, now I see
There,
him.
you're right
Jeez.
there. It was.
Okay, so we have now our two right backs because two right backs is obviously enough. I mean, we have one left back, which is Oliveira. I think we can all agree on this. That is normal that he's there. He's one of probably nine players who have their starting spot secured because
Mhm.
the starting 11 is pretty secure.
Mhm.
But then we have to look at the backup option. So we have Vinia, we have Espino, we have Piqueres, we also have Laxalt. I mean, he's not going to be there, but I'm just mentioning some names there.
He has World Cup experience.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I did really well as well. So Candido is even someone you can name. But Alessandro, what will be your pick and your reasoning behind it?
As the backup left back at
Yeah,
this moment in time, I will go Piqueres because of the characteristics that he has. He could also make when the game when you're defending a lead and you need to throw another defender on there, Piqueres can shift into the middle a little bit more and also even be a center back if need be because of his height and physicality. That gives you an added versatility. And his performances in Brazil, I think, are higher at a higher level than Matias Vinha currently right now at Roma.
Yeah.
It would be
Yes.
Piqueras for me, although Espino would not be a far second.
No, I mean, what you say about Piqueras, obviously, when it comes to continuity, he certainly ahead of Fina because Fina has hardly even playing, and when he's playing, it's not been that impressive. So thing is, for me, I like Espino a lot, and objectively speaking, but also subjectively speaking, because he's the player. He's a player
Hmm.
that really um, I really like. But having thought about this a little bit more, is Piqueras is probably a better backup option, even when you're looking at the future, even when you look at the physical presence he brings, because Espino is quite a small guy. Um, um, and also Espino, I mean, he is good for Cadiz, but it's also because Cadiz is a team which isn't the greatest of teams. And he is an energetic and he really dominates as left flank for them. But yeah, I mean, probably Piquez would be the right option, and
Could
also yeah, also because he's already has experience with the national team, and Espino has none.
Espino doesn't have the experience with the national team, so you're bringing in somebody who you don't even know fits in with the culture currently within internally in the national team to a World Cup, and that's always a risk. But like you said, we're not a France, we're not a Portugal, so that's not really a primary concern when making a squad for the World Cup for Uruguay. But I would say this is if had Brian Ocampo been at Cadiz longer and been consistently playing a higher level of performance, it would help Espino's chances because you have a chemistry.
Yeah,
You have two players from the same club. But unfortunately, that's not the case.
no, no. So I think we will make our decision with Piqueres. Let's have a look in the comments for what then he have is his defense is Godin, Josema Coates, Gaston Alvarez, Oliveira, Varela, Damian, and Piqueres, which is certainly something to say for. I think that's decent. We will finish our defense in a second. Nicolas Gomez says Espino has also hit his ceiling, and that's yeah. I mean that's
Yeah.
something you can really say. You never know what the upper limits or what the potential of Piqueres will be.
Mhm.
So and Nicolas adds, might as well let Piqueres keep growing. Guy Pizza, I think it's Pizzanelli, if I remember correctly. Vinia will get the call up, and I think we both agreed on this already, and that's for sure the truth. Not sure who should, but he will. No, and probably we are gonna decide on Piqueras now because that seems the most logical option. Yeah. Saludos desde Mexico from Finagre Berry. Thanks to you here, man. Good to see you here. And Abjit Ayay. I mean, some of these names are probably killing them, but Tabres would have brought up Gaston Silva as backup left back. Yeah, that's good. No, I mean that's probably true as well. So, yeah,
The
thank
other
you.
day, I watched the highlight of Uruguay versus Argentina, 0-0 draw, 2017 World Cup. One of the worst games I've ever seen was that Clásico. The 0-0 on the Centenario for the qualifier for the 2018 World Cup was terrible, terrible. And Gaston Silva and Alvaro Gonzalez was playing on that same left side, and it made for terrible
Yeah,
watching.
I'm sure Corujo played as well.
Corujo actually has a record in that game. Corujo played, I think, 25 minutes of that game without touching the ball.
Oh, okay. And he even came on in midfield, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
he did. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, some of these games were just dreadful. But I do remember that this is draw, obviously, the way Uruguayan media back then and still now, obviously,
Mhm.
sometimes work is that like it was like a draw to turn it tight because Uruguay, I think they lost 3 times in a row before.
Yeah.
And but anyway, this is in the past. Uh, so okay, we have our fullback options sorted out. Josema is there, Coat is there in defense, even as Godin. And I have to remember this is we do this assuming that Araujo will not be fit.
Mhm.
So we are looking at probably let's say 5 or 6 center backs. What would you say? What is I mean 3 goalkeepers, 6 center backs. Two. So then we are up on 13 players, and we have 13 players left for midfield and attack. So let's say 5
Okay. Yeah.
because attacking options and midfield options probably a bit more exciting, and obviously there are
Mhm.
also more options. So let's say we will pick another 2. Um, I will say Mike picks first, and then you can follow me
Okay.
with agreeing or disagreeing, whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, so I would say Agustin Rogel will be there. I like him a lot, not only for the cameo appearance he had for Uruguay, or wasn't really a cameo because he played basically the whole game after Rajo went out injured. So I would put Rogel, and I'm struggling here because I don't want Gutierrez to be in the squad, but I do realize his history with the national team, and also do realize that the other options have virtually no experience for the national team. Still, though, my pick, and by the way, I will unclick it because we have not made the decision yet. But my other pick would be the Cabrera. So I would go for Rogel and Cabrera. Yeah,
Those would be my brain says those two should be the players. But then Cáceres, if I were the coach, would you deny a player has given so much to the national team, so much history, so much of a bond with other players in the squad, a chance to end his career at the World Cup? So I feel like one of those spots has to go to Cáceres. As I know you're losing a spot, and
uh,
the time that I know, but the time that Cáceres would be playing, he would be playing in a back five. He would be coming in when he wouldn't be unless there is a terrible injury crisis in the tournament. Cáceres' appearances would be limited to coming on in a back three as
yeah,
part of a total back five, which to me that's not too bad. But I understand it is a drop off in quality. I understand. Um, the other pick, Sebastian Cáceres, I definitely rule out. I have never been a fan of his, even when I first saw him in the under 20 when he partnered at Araujo in that under 20 World Cup where they got knocked out by Ecuador. Gaston Alvarez, though, is very, very promising, a player with a lot of ceiling. But at the end of the day, I think he has to wait his time in turn. And I'm having difficult. Cabrera is one. Cabrera is one.
okay. I
And then
think
I'm
we
going to
can
go
agree on
with,
that. Yeah, Cabrera,
we
we
can
agree
agree
on.
on that one. And now it becomes down to experience versus my heart says Cáceres. My brain is saying uh, I'm just thinking, I would prefer Cáceres. That's what
Okay.
I.
Yeah, I understand completely what you're saying, and I'm sometimes a little bit biased on Caceres in the negative side.
Mhm.
So the reasoning you do with you give with Alvarez, I agree. I mean, I like him a lot as well, just like Bueno. But the reason why I haven't picked Alvarez is because even though he is doing well for Getafe when he's played this season, he's also been left out in the last 2 or 3 games. So there's still not this like this
It's not
trust from the
definitive.
management. So sorry, what did you say?
It's
Sorry.
not definitive. We don't know.
No, no,
We see it, but we don't know yet.
no. That's true, and I'm sure he's gonna be there in the future. I'm absolutely sure. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult to make this decision. Um, yeah, it's difficult to make a decision now because there are many options, and I think we can agree. Maybe you know what we're gonna do? We because I want Rogel to be there basically because I think he should be there. But
I can give you that one because I did the goalkeeper.
okay, I will give no, but we can still. I mean, Cabrera. We also have to realize that even though I like him and I think he deserves to have
That's
some minutes
right.
in the last international break, um, the this is a hard one. That's basically what it
He's
comes down to.
he's an he's an experienced type of player. So is Cáceres. So actually, you know what? That point there reverses me. If we are able to remove, go with yeah. No, I think you're on the right path. I think yes, I think it should be Cáceres instead of Cabrera
Okay,
because if you're going to bring an experienced player, I think it would have to be Cáceres.
I still think though Cabrera is a better player,
He's a
but
better player,
I would
but
I will have a look at commentator from Good Pizzanelli. I would bring Caceres for not only for his experience but for potential morale boost of all the players who
mhm,
also want him
that's
to be there. That's a good point. I mean, because I mean he's a bit of a freak. Not in a, I mean probably the wrong probably the wrong word choice, but he's a bit of a nutter sometimes. In the way he presents himself, and I think I mean he is a good guy in the group, even though he's not like he's a bit of an outsider as well in the way he presents himself. But so you're probably right in this case that his presence or his maybe his absence will be felt. Um, So I think
That's the tipping point for me.
yeah. So yeah, I think we're gonna go with Cáceres, and I do say this with a really bad, well, I mean, bad conscience, I would say. No, no, but okay. I
If
think
anybody wants to, I don't know if these pictures are still on the internet. I remember a long time ago there were pictures on the internet of Cáceres because he said he was a little bit of a freak, but you could not be wrong because after they won the Copa America in 2011, there was a picture online of him in the change room
yeah,
naked, fully naked, and you can see everything. So if
yeah.
anybody wants to see that, they can Google it. But I'm just putting it out there.
No, no, I mean, yeah. No, I remember this photo, yeah, because with Abreu as well, and no, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know what to say about this, but so we have chosen, or we have chosen together, I would say, because um, yeah. So no, I think this is the right way to go, and I mean, whether it's the right way or the wrong way, it's our way anyway, so that's okay. Um, and then we go to the other section, midfielders and strikers. So they mesh this two together, which is, well, that's the way it is then. So I think we can already pick these type of guys here because we know they're gonna be there. I would wait a second with Vecino, Rossi as well, because he's also not the one. He's also debatable, but yeah, Valverde will be there. I think we will skip, by the way, the attack for first because it's gonna be better to
Yes, we could see it
to
better.
yeah, that's better, I think. Valverde will be there, Bentancur will be there, Torreira will be there, Ugarte should be there, De La Cruz should
Has
be
to be
there.
there.
So yeah,
Ugarte is a player who I would put money or put in the list of players who could have a standout World Cup, and not just a standout World Cup for Uruguay. I'm talking about player of the tournament.
I mean, I really like him, and I also think he can be a standout. But I think he can be more like Bentancur was in the 2018 World Cup, who did
Mhm.
well. I mean, I didn't think he deserved the hype that he got from some people, but I think he could be a similar type, similar sort of tournament like Bentancur.
Mhm.
For sure. I mean, one of the best young players in the tournament. I think so as well. But he has to play then, and that's also not sure. But yeah, we will have to wait for this. Um, but I think when it comes to the midfield, I will load some more players because there are many options, obviously, and I don't want to miss some. So Valverde, Bentancur, we are two. Toera, four. Ugarte, five. De La Cruz, I would still also class as a midfielder because that is the way he seems like he's gonna be deployed like this. And even when he's being deployed as a winger, more as a winger that is inverted winger and comes into midfield. So De La Cruz will be a midfield option. Um, then Vecino, I mean, he is there, right?
In the 26, yes, but as a starter, that's a debate. It's a
No, no,
debate if he starts.
yeah, I agree with you. Don't think he should be a starter, like full stop. I mean, that shouldn't be the case. But okay, but he will be there. And also, I mean, now he's at Lazio. He's not playing like all the time, but he's doing well. I mean, we saw the goals yet in the Europa League. He also scored, I think, recently as well against Torino. I think it was. But anyway, he's doing better
I,
now.
I think that, along with previous national team experience, is enough to at least deserve a squad place, a
Yeah,
place on the bench.
I mean, when it comes down to recent performances for Uruguay, he should not be there. You know, I mean, I'm talking about the last 24 months, not only maybe the last few
Mhm.
games he did okay again,
Mhm.
but there have been some absolute stinkers, and certainly when it towards the end of the Tavares reign. So, but Vecino will be there. Yeah, I mean that will be Alonso's choice, but also yeah, we that will probably be the right
But
choice.
then you could say the same thing about Ballistri, because he's done nothing for club.
No, but I mean it's true. I mean you can make a case that Pellisti shouldn't be there, and I think you would even make a case that's quite feasible.
Well,
Um,
that's why international squad picking, international tournaments are so complex because managers take into consideration when they're picking their squads, not the players who are the most informed, but the players who align the best with their vision for the team.
yeah, and I mean that's I think for me, and it should be a mix, obviously, and it is a mix. I mean, and Pelistri, the fact that he will be there, obviously, because he made
Mhm.
such a good impact, and because he was Alonso's choice. You know, he was Alonso's guy, and
Him performing well be, became sort of a symbol that
yeah,
this is going to be different. That was Alonso's statement,
yeah, that
and
was like
he's going to be
yeah.
there.
No, I fully agree. I mean, that was like. I mean, I'm trying to remember something similar, an example like this with another club or another team. Can't come to it now, but yeah, it's really like this first decision of him, first big decision, I would say,
Mhm.
and it paid off. So, and he will be there, and I think he's. I mean, I'm okay with him being there. Don't get me wrong, but the preparation is like, it's not good. I mean, you
What do
know
you
that.
think of Arambari?
I think he will not be there, and I think he shouldn't be there as well, to be
I
honest.
agree.
Because the thing is, the position you would like him to. I mean, he can play as a box to box, and he has done this also later on for Getafe. But his main position there is like holding midfield, and I think Torreira and Ugarte are the clear players that should be there.
He's a destroyer in the midfield. He sits in front of the
Yeah,
defense and just like I said, like I described it before, he's one of those Pac-Man type players, obviously with a little more technical ability than an Adevila Rios or Diego Pires, for example. But two things. One, he's not going to benefit that the midfield is going to, in terms of competition, he's down on the bottom of the list. And number two, I feel like the long-term vision, the long-term plan for this team is to move beyond just having two midfielders and a double pivot be destroyers, and that's sort of he's a bit limited in his capacity to go both forward and back as well. So I would leave him out.
yeah. I mean, I would agree that I would leave him out as well, and that's the thing. What you said it earlier is that in a different era, like 4 years ago or 8 years ago, Anambari would be there and he should be there, and that's the well, a bit unfortunate for him because he's a good player. Something also that hasn't helped him is that he stayed at Getafe for too long,
Hmm.
because probably 2 years ago he was like at he was at the highest point of his game. Then he stayed at Getafe, and he's not been able to make this next steps because he's still at a team that is battling relegation.
I 100%
Uh,
agree.
so yeah, and yeah. So let's have a look. Danny F says midfield should be Valverde, Bentancur, Torreira, Ugarte, De La Cruz, Arrascaeta, Arambari slash Vecino. So that suggested one of these two you would choose. So we already have Valverde, Bentancur, and I mean Arrascaeta. I'm gonna pick here. Or even though you can assess him, you can think of him as like an attacking player, but the way we're gonna differentiate it now, I think, is we pick the midfielders and the attacking midfielders, and then we pick the strikers slash wingers.
Hmm.
So I think when it comes to the position now, Torreira, Ugarte, two defensive-minded midfielders, Valverde, Bentancur. Well, they can play more roles than one, but they would be like the balanced midfielder. Vecino is a bit between both, between defensive and balanced. De La Cruz, central midfield, but also attacking midfield. Tasqueta, clear attacking midfielder, obviously. And we are now up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 midfielders.
What about the debate with Nandes? Because I've seen a lot of
Yeah.
comments, a lot of tweets about that. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, the thing is, it's hard to have an opinion about this at the
Hmm.
moment, and that's also because sometimes people, or you will talk about it, or we will talk about it, or maybe someone will talk to you about it via Twitter or whatever way. Is we don't know a lot about it because this legal case came out with his wife or his ex-wife now, about domestic violence, and it's been up in the air since it came out. So I mean, I find it hard to have an opinion about it because you don't want to be too harsh on Nandes because nothing has been proven yet. We also want to have in the back of the mind that there is a potential here that is his wife has endured domestic violence, which is obviously, I mean, horrific. So, but the other point I would say about Nandes is that based on the way or where he's playing right now, it's probably reasonable to say that he should not be there because he's playing in the second division in Spain or in Italy. He's not even playing all the time. So yeah, I mean, it's a hard one. I mean,
He's
what?
had a
Yeah,
it's good that it's this decision is easier because it coincides with a big decline in form for Nandes. Had Nandes been performing the way he was 2 years ago, this would be a really tricky debate. Even though my personal opinion is that you don't want to bring anything with the the potential to blow up during the World Cup. If there was a development legally or a new piece of evidence were to be revealed, it would just disrupt the entire harmony and balance of the squad. So it's best to just leave him out entirely. But the decision's made easier because his form has declined anyways, and he's still playing on Calgary. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
No, I mean that's the thing. That's why it's like something playing really in the background. I mean, it's like it's not. It's there are some people speaking about it, but because of the way he is now in terms of his footballing career, it's a bit of a subplot. While if he was at the top of his game, it would be a big story, which it isn't now. I think midfield is probably clear now, right? I
I
don't think we
agree.
should add because we have one, two, three, four, five which you could class as central midfielders, and then you have
Mhm.
De La Cruz who can play there as well, but also can play on the wing. Dasqueta is probably more of a winger, but can also play as a 10 if we play, for example, with a diamond.
Mhm.
But it's balanced enough, if I think though. I will go have a look at some comments now. Pauline Mercer says, "I demand." Uh, okay, you demand something about. Well, it's this comment which is not really related to this stream, I think. But anyway, it comes down that FIFA World Cup Qatar should be cancelled, which it should. I mean, that's I think if you follow me on Twitter, and I think also past streams when we were on together, we spoke about this. It should, but it won't. So I mean, the whole ethical discussion in football. I mean, we're a long way past this point, obviously.
They
But
should cancel the World Cup in Qatar, obviously, for the ethical reasons that we just listed, but not cancel the World Cup at all. The World Cup has to go on in a
yeah.
month, regardless. But there's tons of infrastructure for that to happen. They can just do easily, just either do it in the States or just do it across European tournament.
Not true, but the thing is, I mean, I absolutely agree with people who are speaking out on this tournament, and I have done as well in the past. But it's not. There's nothing going to change now. So I like.
The way we make our voices heard is we make it clear
Yeah,
during the tournament the
yeah.
distaste that we have with the host nation and their actions, and that can be by signs, by fan protests within reason in the stadium, like a minute of, for example, a planned minute of silence among certain sections of fans or something like that. But there needs to be symbolic that we need to make ourselves known during the tournament that we're not happy with it, even though we know definitively that's going to go on.
No, it's true, but no, that's true. And some obviously a lot of fans. I mean, certainly in Europe. I mean,
Mhm.
if in Europe it's more of a discussion than it is in South America for sure.
I would have loved to see more shirt sponsors done. What happened with Denmark, for example,
Yeah,
with the sort of they faded out their sponsorship on the jersey.
no, that's true. I mean, yeah, we will see what happens, and maybe we will discuss or make it or just dedicate a stream to this because it's an interesting topic. And the reason I'm moving on now is because if we go into the topic, we will be here for another hour because
Yes, I
that's the way it
agree.
is. So we probably will do something about this when it comes to uh, close to the tournament because
Mhm.
obviously it's like this elephant in the room which you cannot deny or not ignore.
Mhm.
So yeah. Guy Pizzanelli says, I think perhaps player of tournament is too much to expect for Ugarte, but showcase that leads uh, to him being picked up by a top squad, I think is very much in play for him. Yeah, and I think that's also probably what Alessandro meant. Is that is the thing because this is an ideal stage, obviously for him, for De La Cruz, for many other players who are not at the like in Europe or at the top level. I mean, yeah,
I also do want to clarify by player of the tournament, I don't mean overall Golden Ball winner, the young player award. Just so we're
no,
clear.
no, I thought so as well. I thought so as well. That's tremendous. Um, let's have a look. Shani says implying Godin should be dropped is downright absurd anyway. Saying he should not start is fine, but Godin is a legend in his last possible World Cup. Of course, he'll be in the squad. Well, I mean, I think we both agree that he should be in the
That,
squad.
I
But
no agree.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No, the problem was the state of health. Do you even bring a player who cannot play a single minute of the tournament into the 26-man squad? That was the debate. The debate whether he deserves to be there or not is not a debate. He deserves to be there. But the debate is not about Godin. In my opinion, the debate is about whether you even bring a player who is not physically capable of playing in a game.
No, I agree with this completely as well. And some people don't want Goodwin in the squad. And I mean, even though he's a captain, we also have to realize he hasn't hardly kicked a football in a year. So he should be there for me, but we should not act like there are no reasons to discuss this matter. But anyway, he should be in the squad for me as well. I mean, that's true. But okay, we will move on to the attackers, the wingers. So first, this is done. Suarez, Cavani, and Darwin. These are our three strikers. Then we can pick Pelistri, and I think Alonso will certainly pick him. And I think we both can agree that he is part of the national team now, and he's earned it for his performances with the national team, which are also the only performances we can judge him on, which is obviously a shame. But I think, yeah, Pelistri is there, right?
Yep.
Okay. Then we move on, and we have now, let's have a look, 3 spots left. So we are talking now about the fourth striker and 2 other wingers. And I think in total we will have 4 wingers because Dallas Guetta will play from the left wing as an inverted winger for Uruguay. That's his place in this team, as it seems right now. And if we play with a diamond, when he's at the tip of the diamond, then yeah, we will either play with congested midfield or wingers, where Darwin will probably be one of our wingers. So I just want to make this point to say that 3 wingers is enough with Darasqueta and Nunes also in the squad.
It is, but you also want to have at least one natural outside midfielder,
Yeah, and
somebody who.
that's what we're gonna pick now.
Mhm.
Um, and Alessandro, yeah, you are up first. Who do you believe? What are the wingers or wide midfielders, whatever way you want to look at it, that should be going to Qatar?
Canobio. Canobio for versatility reasons because he can also, if need be, if we needed to go into a back five and we needed a right wing back, Canobio can fill that right wing back if need be. He's physical. I like his characteristics are characteristics that other players do not have in sort of our outside midfielder positions. So for that reason, I think Canobio will definitely go. And his
Okay,
form has been solid.
that's the thing. I mean, that with because I don't watch a lot of Atletico Paranaense, and I'm sorry for that, but he has played a lot, and he's really like this player that the manager lost because of his work rate. But I also seen like some criticism for his lack of end product. Um, but to me,
He's kind of like how like the way he plays is kind of like James Milner. Obviously, he's a lot younger, but there's a lot of utility into
yeah,
what he can bring with the team. There's a lot of use that he could bring because he can have that sort of tactical flexibility. He works hard. And I know he's lacking that end product, but in international football and international tournaments in particular, sometimes you just need people to grind out results as
yeah.
opposed to people who can give you an end product to get over the line. Ganobio is one of those guys, I think.
No, that's a good point because he will not be there for the end. I mean, his main, if he's in the squad, it's not the end product which you would look at because Akrobia would be someone to be in a flat 4-4-2 on the right wing,
Mm-hmm.
being solid in defense and providing this outlet as a quick guy who go vertical to create space as well. So yeah, that's a good point you make. Canobio, you say, and what is your second option? Who should be there? It's not an easy one.
Ocampo.
Okay.
I think Brian Ocampo. I think he has a relationship already with the national team, but he's also built a relationship with Suarez that could be valuable over the last few months. Of course, Suarez going to Nacional, if you didn't know, but I think that is a value, and he's a player who has a high ceiling, a potential high ceiling with the national team if he continues to stay in Europe and continues uh, to build on the performance that he just had. I know it's very much early to say whether that's going to be the case, but I think there's quality there that could be of use off the bench, something to throw on, something to change the game.
I agree. Ocampo's in for me as well, so that we can agree on. Um, Canovio is also one of the players I consider to be there. We can go over the other options, which is obviously Facundo Torres, and Terrans is also someone who should be named. Rodriguez is not on the preliminary list, so we cannot discuss him, or we can, but it's no use
There's no
basically.
use because I wouldn't even consider him.
No, and for me also, I wouldn't consider him. He's based on his last 2 years, and hopefully he can return and go back to the potential or the
Hmm.
player we also saw at times. But
Hmm.
yeah, I'm quickly going to go back to the preliminary list because I just want to have a quick look as well. So the wingers Arajo, good that he's on there, but he will not be one of my picks. Then we have Rossi, Diego Rossi, who is someone you can consider, but I would discard him because I don't think he has the characteristics with which Alonso wants, but also which we need on the wing. Um, so my decision is basically between Canobio and Torres, because Terrans, although he's a good player, he's probably more of a number 10 also. Um,
But that becomes a question. What do you want? You want someone
yeah,
with end because Torres has more end product than Canobio.
yeah,
We
for
know
sure.
that. We've seen
Yeah,
it. But that's the
I mean,
question.
that's the problem. I mean, if you base it on the season and on the player, I mean, purely based on the player, not thinking about the national team or what the national team needs in a certain position, Torres is an easy pick.
But
But
we have players with end product who can play in that position that Torres is already playing. There are Scaletta, De La Cruz, right?
that's true.
Valverde. We haven't even considered the fact that Valverde could be shifted out wide, for example.
That's true. I mean, that's what makes it so hard. This decision.
Hmm.
For I mean, so yeah, I mean, so your pick is Canovio, and I'm leading to Torres. So for the people who are watching, I'm gonna have another
Let's
look at
take
the
a look.
comments.
That's yeah.
Yeah. So first, quickly go through comments which are not on this topic, but obviously I want to discuss. In my opinion, Leonardo Fernandez, Santiago Rodriguez, and probably Diego Fagundes could have be named in the 55-man squad after the season they're having. And I'm absolutely agreeing with you that is a good point. And this is from Abjit II. Leburu says, guys, out of context, but Granada versus Zaragoza, 5 minutes left, and Arezzo hasn't entered. This is disgusting. Yeah, I mean, I really hate Caranca, to be honest. I loved him as an assistant for Mourinho. I think he did an okay job.
Are
Uh,
we surprised? I don't. I've stopped checking
no, that's
those
true. That's true. I mean, that's
at
true.
this point. I used to check, and I just stopped at a certain point because it was useless.
No, and Abiat AI says that sucks, but Arezzo should leave Granada in the winter. At least a low move. A year ago, no one saw Borbas getting named in the Uruguay squad before Arezzo. Really good point, and it's really true as well. Danny F says Canovio played well versus Canada and helped Ferreira defend versus Alfonso Davies in that game.
That is exactly what I was saying just earlier. Is that ability that he can come into a right wing back position? That was part of the tactical setup in that game against Canada. I think I tweeted about it on game day. But Alonso was very strategic in shutting and nullifying Alfonso Davies, which is the primary threat for Canada. By the way, I'm also Canadian, but obviously, if just for full disclaimer, I was going for Uruguay all the way in that game.
Yeah.
But Alfonso Davies was shut out, was kept quiet in that game, and that was because you had Canobio shifting inside, supporting Varela defensively.
No, I mean, I think I've well, you've made your decision, and I think I'm gonna agree with it because of the arguments we have had, or the arguments. I mean, the reasons we have laid out that Canobio will have more use in this team than Torres has, because also Torres um, will not be playing ahead of Tarasqueta or De La Cruz, who can have a similar role, and we know the first choice on the right wing or the left wing as well. Um, um, well, let's say it like this: he could play as a backup or as a competition for Palistri, and he will be something different for sure. But it's not. I don't think Alonso's looking for something different on the right wing, especially. So you would probably lean more to Canobio um, in that sense. So I think we're just gonna make it like this. Canobio be in. I think it's the right decision. Um, Although it's really hard on Torres, who has had a really good season for
He
Orlando.
has had a really good season, but we have to take into the context where he is having a really good season. I believe
Yeah,
personally there's a little bit of an inflation problem with statistics in the MLS. The MLS has grown exponentially in the past 10 years,
yeah.
and the quality of the league has improved. However, the MLS is still not up to the standards of the Brazilian league, the Argentinian league, and European football.
No, that's true. I will, by the way, quickly remove this comment because he's been there all the time. There's no problem for the commenters particularly, but I just spotted now. Okay, last decision is the fourth striker, um, and yeah, I mean, where are we going for?
Gaston Pereiro. No.
I was really for a moment I was thinking, what are you saying? No, that's
Thank you. We thank him for the goal against Ecuador, and
yeah,
it will be what he will be remembered for, I think, in 30, 40 years when we look back at Pereiro on the national team. But that time has gone. Um, it becomes a debate between you whether you want to bring Martinez or Satriano
yeah,
or
and
Rossi.
Rossi. That's a good. That's also a good. I didn't even consider that because
Rossi, who has a relationship with Alonso already.
yeah,
uh, and because of they've obviously both were in the MLS, not a direct relationship, I mean, but they both sort of understand each other. Alonso seems to have a preference for Rossi, given his versatility to play as an out and out striker and also play on the wing as well. But I wouldn't include Rossi just because he's been so inconsistent in Turkey.
yeah. No, and also that's also something we have to take into account. Although we seem to like forget it with some players, is playing time, and playing time with Palistri is a completely different matter. And you obviously have to understand the context in each individual situation. But Agustin Alvarez Martinez has hardly played, although he's done well with the minutes he's gotten. Rossi is now a starter for Fenerbahce, and Gomez is gone to Trabzonspor and he's played. Would you pick him? That's another discussion, but okay, that's something that's going for him. Satriano, he's also find regularity, continuity at Empoli. He scored just one goal, which is, well, he's played 9 or 10 games. It's not a lot. He's also could have scored some more because he had some chances. But the decision or the discussion we've had, I think it was off stream about Satriano, is we also have to realize or well, talk about what does this fourth striker have that
That the
the
others don't.
others, the others don't offer. With Maxi, you can't argue that he has something completely different, which he stands out at that Cavani or Darwin doesn't have. Um,
If anything, he's a much cheaper version than Cavani.
yeah, and a less mobile one as well.
Yeah.
So that's something which you can, well, that's something which we can all agree on. I think. Agustin Alvarez Martinez, really good player, and also a different type of player maybe than some of the other our names currently, like Cavani, Suarez, and Darwin. Although it's not like a completely different story. I mean, you talked about his heading abilities, even though he's quite small, um,
Mhm.
and he's also someone who is. I mean, he is quite mobile, and he also wants it at his feet. He also wants to drop deep sometimes. So in that sense, he's a little bit different than the current options because Suarez is not really like it anymore. But when you look at someone who really is like not of the same characteristics than the other three, the one that is coming up in my head constantly is Satriano. Um,
I agree. Those are the reasons. I know we had this conversation prior to the stream,
yeah,
and those are sort of the similar reasons that I also gave. There's a hunger there. There's a hunger that I can sense that someone who has a little bit of national team taste of the national team. Obviously, he played some minutes, but somebody who he wants it. There's a hunger. There's hunger mixed in with potential. Diego Rossi, I don't sense a lot of hunger. I don't sense a lot of obviously potential because of his age. Um, and I don't think that Diego Rossi as well would offer if the characteristics that we would want for Diego Rossi in terms of being different than the other strikers would be someone who's quick, who's more mobile, who's more dynamic, Satriano can do that as well. So I would probably lean for Satriano.
Yeah, and I do as well. I think we're gonna go for him. And there it is. We can mention though Nico Lopez, Jonathan Rodriguez also being called up, Thiago Borbas, and yeah, it's good to see them there. Although it's hard to make a case for them at this moment in time. Although in maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, it would be a different story. But that's the thing about football. Obviously, it's so dynamic and things change quickly. So
Mhm.
let's save it. And this squad, I will post it on Twitter later on. Oh, okay. That is okay.
I hope you remember.
No.
Oh,
Anyway, I will pick it later on. It's okay. I will do it again.
yeah.
We will return to this. That's really awful, by the way. But okay. Um, so back on here. Um, yeah, it's been an hour picking the squad, and that also tells the story. Even though it's not the hardest of squads to pick for Uruguay in
Mhm.
recent years, it's still a lot of options. Yeah, I think we can quickly touch on some of other topics for like 10 minutes, 50 minutes, and then we
I'm totally
call it a
for it.
match.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So first one, which we can name, is Federico Valverde. Um, I mean, it's yeah. What can you say about him anymore? I mean, his level at this moment in time is crazy, right?
Was it the last? No, I think it was on Twitter where I posted. I said, I think a reply to one of your tweets that I would love to see him start playing a little bit more centrally for Real Madrid as preparation for the World Cup. And that's exactly what's happened. Is he's actually shifted a little bit more centrally in his positioning in recent games for Real Madrid. And what can I say? Centrally or out wide, I don't think it doesn't matter. There is no drop in the level of performance. It's at a standard. It's at a level right now where it's gaining international recognition across all media, all teams, even Barcelona. My friends who are Barcelona friends, who are Barcelona fans, are acknowledging that the level of talent and quality to cut back in, to recover the ball, to pass the ball, to shoot the ball outside of the box. Like he has a hell of a shot. This is
Yeah.
something that I cannot be more excited about. And honestly, right now, if I had to put money on the next Uruguayan player who has the best chance of winning the Ballon d'Or, it would be him.
Yeah, I mean, I am in agreement, fully in agreement on that last part, and also the first things you said, because it's great to see. Because last season he did a really good job in the Champions League, but he was more like this really part of this defensive system, and he would sometimes pop on in attack, but he would really be like the blanket for the defense and midfield and support a little bit Benzema, Vinicius with his runs. But now, like you said, he plays a lot on the wing, but he comes centrally a lot. And even though if he plays in midfield or in right wing, he has got the more freedom from Ancelotti because he also recognizes this player and the amazing finishing abilities he has because the goals he's scoring. I mean, it's not like they are like good finishes like tap ins sometimes or good finish in the box. They are like edge of the box, left or right foot in the top corner. I mean, it's really and besides this, all the things you see in his game, which we know from him, is runs through midfield, his passing on both foot, really sharp, really good, really exceptional sometimes, but also like the simple passes, bang on, and is this is involvement from this young guy that came on the scene for Uruguay against Paraguay to what he is now is like spectacular to have seen.
And
Uh,
he struck out because in the environment that he's in is so conducive to his development and has been so helpful for him. Tony Cruz has become a mentor for Valverde, and there's no better mentor that you
no,
would want than him because Tony Cruz, in my opinion, is you can have other thoughts, but my opinion is that he's top 3 or 4 or 5 midfielders in the past 15 years, 10 years. The level of quality that he plays at, you'd say his prime, but even now he still puts on classy performances. But what I'm saying is also Ancelotti as well, right? Ancelotti has not been known as that coach who develops and really brings a player from A to B, but he's sort of been able to build an environment in Real Madrid where he's allowing some older players like Toni Kroos, like Luka Modric, to take on these younger players under their wing, like Kroos and Valverde, and really help mold them and really help develop them. And Valverde's taken full advantage of that.
yeah, absolutely right. I mean, yeah, it's just the environment he's in now at Madrid is just perfect. It's really perfect. Like he's part of this like incredibly exciting young group with Camavinga, Chouameni, Rodrigo, Vinicius, even Militao, although he's a little bit older maybe. Um, with the legends like Benzema or legends from Madrid, like Benzema, Kroos, Modric, Casemiro before. So yeah, I mean, perfect. And long may it continue, and long will it continue because I see no signs of Valverde having. No, Valverde is going like this. Obviously, there will be downs and lows in every career, but yeah, it's just great.
Mhm.
Um, Another one from the Peñarol Academy. I mean, you can say anything about the rivalry between Peñarol and Nacional, but in recent years, when it comes to churning out these top talents, Peñarol have been winning it because Darwin. I mean, it's been a tough start to the season. It's been complicated moments, but now he is back in the team and playing well more. It's not like he's playing every minute of every game. He sometimes come from the bench, but in the last 4 or 5 games, he started like 4 or 3 games, and he scored goals. And his last game against
West Ham.
West Ham is um, playing like 60 minutes because he came off because of an injury scare, I think it was. Um, I mean, his goal was taken well, but his overall performance, yeah,
He could have had a hat trick by halftime.
yeah. That's the thing. You can look at the downside, that the fact that he hasn't got a hat trick, but the fact that he's got into these positions where he can score goals. That's the thing with Cavani. I used to remember like crazy. Cavani used to be slaughtered sometimes for his missed chances, which yeah, he has to take some of the blame. But the amount of chances he creates for himself, or he gets himself in positions where he is available, that's a quality on its own. So yeah, I mean,
This
you're being a
this
little.
whole
What's your take on Darwin so
the
far?
whole Darwin Nunez issue, the whole thing has been taken to a level for two reasons, a level where I don't even want to discuss for two reasons. Number one, the heightened environment and toxic environment of social media. We don't have to get into the details of that. That's something
Yeah,
outside this stream. And number two is, let's be frank, a lot of people just don't generally have the patience anymore. The patience for players to develop everything. Everything needs to happen now, now, now. Obviously, that's a broader commentary on society as a whole, but this is also something in football as well. You can see it with teams just firing managers left and right and not letting a manager stay and fully develop a team. But with the case of Darwin Nunez, through all the chaos, through all the complications that he's had, when he's the truth of the matter is, and statistically, he leads the league in terms of touches in the box, in terms of movements and stuff like that. So there is something there. There's a reason why he's in the right place in the right time at all moments. If he was a flop, if he was an Andy Carroll, for example, he wouldn't be getting into those positions in the first place. He's in an environment that's also conducive to develop. There is no better team in the Premier League that you want to develop as a young player than Liverpool, in my opinion, because you have the best coach in terms of developing young players, in my opinion, which is Jurgen Klopp. I actually think that that's something I think everybody can sort of acknowledge as well. Another reason I will say, or another point that I will make, is that when he starts for Liverpool, he scores. And this is a Liverpool team that's not even creating as many
no,
chances as they were last year. This is a Liverpool team that has been struggling as well. A Liverpool team who have Andy Robertson and Alexander Arnold, who are not creating or assisting as much as they usually would be. And imagine if Alexander Arnold was having the season he was 2 years ago, and Darwin Nunez was in the box. I think he'd be scoring a lot more goals.
yeah.
So there's a lot more to come with Darwin, and his own worst enemy is only going to be himself. But if he continues on this path, I think Darwin Nunez is going to do great things.
Oh, I agree because that's besides the goal scoring, which is I mean, you look at the numbers, not that bad. I think it's like a goal every 100 minutes at the moment, which is absolutely fine for when you come into a new team, which has been struggling, like you said. And another thing you can say is that when he plays, Liverpool play better. That has been the case this season overall. Obviously, you can have exceptions in one performance or another, but he brings a lot of attention. Obviously, he's a strong lad with a lot of runs, which makes Salah more free, gives more time for some midfielders to pick their pass at times. So his impact on Liverpool has already been positive. Okay, it's there have been things you can pick out and criticize and scrutinize, which is like you said, something that is really positive or popular on social media or but overall, it's not been a terrible start. The fact is that it's been an okay start, But the fact that Haaland has come in and has been like this incredible Norwegian Viking, which has bulldozed through the Premier League, that's it's not playing for him because you're gonna look at the you're gonna compare. This is natural in football.
It was a false comparison from the
Yeah,
beginning.
for sure. Listen, let's be
Everybody knew that, but it created headlines, it created buzz on social media, and it gives people something to talk about. That's why it started in the first place, and now we're living with sort of the fallout of that. But I will say this about Darwin Nunez and in terms of Liverpool's system as well. I'm a Liverpool fan for obviously those of you who I think I've mentioned it before in previous streams. So I interact a lot on the Liverpool Reddit. I read a lot of Liverpool fans' comments, and everybody understands the Darwin Nunez situation to the point that everybody just wants him to succeed. Everybody wants him to do well and understands that there's so much potential there for him to do well, and he's in the right place to do it. But there are areas in his game in which he has to improve. For example, he's offside a little bit too much, and his first touch can be better. When playing for Liverpool, Liverpool right now are having like a transition. It's a transition period for Liverpool. Let's be real. It no longer is Salah, Firmino, and Mane, where Mane was playing the false nine position towards the end of last season because Firmino can no longer do it to physical issues such as injuries and whatnot. Firmino's now back to his best, but now Liverpool are shifting in the way they play to a 4-4-2, to a 4-2-3-1. Klopp has had to adjust because he's obviously lost Mane. Players cannot continue to play with the same characteristics as the last 4 or 5 years have they done consistently. And Liverpool had to put in more effort than any other team in the Premier League because of number one, they don't have the squad depth of Manchester City, right? Manchester City are able to rotate their entire team week in and week out if they wanted to. But Liverpool, in order to keep pace with Manchester City, had to go above and beyond some of these players asking. Especially last year, Liverpool played every single game. They went all the way in the FA Cup, in the League Cup, in the Champions League, and to the last day of the Premier League. To ask the same set of core players to do that year in and year out takes a toll on a system. So right now it's transitioning to a 4-4-2. Salah has now been able to score more goals because he's more central. And when he's able to pair up with someone like Darwin Nunez, who just creates chaos up front, you're going to have space for someone like Salah. When Darwin Nunez came in the game against Manchester City, which I agree with him not starting in that game because he wasn't ready. Yeah, give it 2 or 3 more years. He's the first name on the team sheet in a game against Manchester City. But right now in this transition period, Jurgen Klopp went with what would be best in the moment. It's not a reflection of because he thinks Darwin Nunez is not living up to the standards. Let's get that clear. But when he came on against Manchester City, he just created chaos. Absolute chaos. I'm not sure if you saw the game, but remember the chances that he created. And he could have had it. I understand there was that moment where he didn't pass to Salah, but that's fine. That's that's not a moment of selfishness. That's a moment of nervousness and playing in front of an Anfield crowd in a game of such high magnitude. And also the game itself was very, very heated in that moment. So that's something to keep in mind as well. He could have had an assist to Alexander Arnold had Alexander Arnold ran or been there a couple seconds earlier to that ball. I thought it was overall a positive performance actually against Manchester City as opposed to a negative one, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, I have the same opinion because, yeah, you mentioned things he can improve on. His decision making, for example, is another one, but that's okay, or it's not okay. It can be better, but he is like Jurgen Klopp said, the market, yeah, 100 million is a lot of money, but he is not. He's 20, 22, 23 now. We are taking him on board, and we see him as a potential superstar, but he's not that yet. But okay, to close it on Darwin, like you said as well, internally, when it comes to the Liverpool fan base, they really trust with him. Obviously, you always have these people that are looking for trouble and are being a bit controversial. But overall, the feeling I get when interacting with Liverpool fans on Twitter, for example, is that they believe he's going to be a really good player for them. And the feeling in Anfield, for sure, is that they love him already and that they back him to the hill. So I think Darwin will be all right. But yeah, I think it's probably pretty characteristic of Darwin's life story that it's not going to be all rosy and it's not all going to be straightforward. But yeah, another topic or 2 or 3 topics I want to mention quickly before we wrap it up is firstly Tarasqueta, another trophy, Copa do Brasil champion. Yeah, I mean, I think it's now 10 trophies in 4 seasons, and it can be the 11th, or it can become 11 when they win the Copa, or if they win the Copa Libertadores in a few weeks' time. Yeah, Tarasqueta just great. I mean, anything to add about Tarasqueta and maybe his future?
There was a comment made by a former Brazilian player who's escaping me who said that Arrascaeta can play on Real Madrid or Barcelona.
I think it
And
was
that,
Felipe Luis said it. Yeah, I think.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
And I don't know if he starts in a Real Madrid midfield of Toni Kroos, Valverde, and Luka Modric, but he's in the conversation to definitely start for Barcelona in that
yeah,
midfield as well. He has that quality. How is a European team not come in with a 30 million, 40 million offer? Has his agent just said, no, we're not going to Europe. We're shut out. We're done. We're going to stay here. But there's one player who I just love to get a taste of Europe in any sort of capacity in any of the sort of the big leagues. It would be Derasqueta.
yeah. I agree. And to add on your point, when to what Felipe Luis said, I mean, when you talk or listen or read some about like Brazilian accounts, which are good, well, good sources, I would say, from what is playing there and the opinions um, on Tarasqueta and on Brazilian national team, is they think that if Arteta was Brazilian, he would be in the national
Yeah,
team and would be
yeah,
starting. And
yeah.
that is not like a left field or a opinion. This is just like something that a lot of people believe, and that speaks volumes, obviously, to the quality he has as a player. Um, whether we will see Arteta in Europe, we will see. I mean, to be honest, I'm okay either way. But obviously, it's like a thorn in the side. Maybe not for Arteta anymore, but for some of the lovers of
Mhm,
Arteta,
mhm,
which if you love football, you love Arteta for
mhm.
sure. Um, another player we I think both love. Um, well, there's some distance between them two, but he is a good player. Leonardo Fernandez having a really good season. He's not in the squad. I believe he probably should have been there. I think you have the similar opinion.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, he's now in the semifinals of the Apertura tournament in Mexican football, scoring, assisting on a weekly basis, basically. Um, and another name for Mexican football who is not playing but is managing, who we should mention, is Guillermo Almada, getting to the final in his first campaign with Pachuca, who finished, I think, 15th, 16th in the season prior to it. And now, once again, in his second campaign, in the Apertura campaign, in the semifinals, winning the first leg 5-2. I mean, everywhere he's gone, he's given them results and improvement, promoting youth and playing good football. Talking
He's
about, yeah,
he's one for the future. He was in conversation. He was a name who was mentioned during the entire
yeah,
sort of shakeup when we weren't sure who was going to be coaching the national team. Um, and I think it's a name that internally and at Alf they have to have checked because everywhere he goes, like you said, he does have that impact, and it's not just an impact morally; it's an impact in terms of a stylistic way to play. His teams have a certain way of playing that is different to much of what we've seen from Uruguayan coaches in previous years, and a direction in which the national team should be moving in towards in terms of their efforts to modernize and sort of reach that sort of I mean, which is the bar, which is the European standard, uh, which is, of course, this is obviously a larger debate, but uh, that bar, that standard is why European teams have been kind of dominating the World Cup recently.
yeah. And on Lamada, you talk about maybe in the future for national team for Uruguay, which I do do think he should be an option when Alonso, for example, um, goes. Already now for the Mexican national team, he's being named as a serious
Hmm.
option.
Hmm.
Um, I would love to see that. Although I think Mexico is a bit of a. I mean,
No, if I was an advisor for Almada, I'd say stay away from the Mexican national team as
yeah,
much as possible. Actually, I don't think there's a national team out there with such a toxic media
no,
and fan environment as the Mexican national team, in my
no. I
opinion.
think there's no winners there. Yeah, no, I agree with you. What I would love to see even much more, and that is generally when I'm talking about Uruguay managers, is see him get a opportunity, even if it's in the second division in Europe. I mean, Gus Poyet, for the player he was in Europe, he got an opportunity quite easily. But Almada, who has played but not on a high level and also not in Europe, um, should be given opportunity. Two other names who I believe certainly can have an opportunity in Europe soon is Paulo Pezzolana, who just promoted with Cruzeiro, and also Alexander Medina, although he's not. It's not gonna to plan in his recent two jobs. But yeah, I think it would be good to see that, Uruguay managers, young Uruguay managers, relatively speaking, to get a chance in Europe, because we have seen Argentinian managers impressing so much. But I was
Medina has really dropped the ball, I think, in recent months with what's happened in Villas. And I'm not just saying this from a tactical perspective. I'm saying this from a personal conduct perspective. The way he some of his actions. I don't know if people on the stream know, but I don't know if you saw the interactions with the fans. He's been sent off. Some of his comments were very hostile in the press conference as well. So that's been a little bit disappointing to see. It seems like Almada is able to sort of take a coach is defined by what he does in the most hostile of environments or difficult moments when he's being challenged by the fans and I was going to say the Spanish word for it, but the sort of directive structure at a club, right? But are you sort of understanding what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's the thing with Medina. I mean, Internacional sacked unfairly, I think, too quickly. But now with
Mm-hmm.
Velez doing well in the Copa, you know, but not count the river, but the league form has just gone so bad. And like you said, his personal conduct has not been the best.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's best probably to stay at the club to build something with Tayares, because he
Mm-hmm.
got him back in the Libertadores, but now he's jumped ship, or he's gone for a better opportunity, he believed, and a year further, and it's not looking as positive as it was.
We
Yeah.
don't know if that's a one-off yet. We don't know
Oh,
if that's just
that's
a
true.
one-time thing, right? If he's able to replicate what he did there at another club and then do that again, then we're
That's true.
talking about somebody who has long-term potential to be in the conversation for the national team management. But at the moment, that's not the case.
No, and we will see. I mean, yeah, we will see with the managers, but it's overall it's looking better than it probably was a couple of years ago. Last thing I want to discuss, because it's yeah we are talking about Uruguay national team, and although um, in the recent years the link between the Uruguayan league and the national team has been not that big, with Suarez now at Nacional and Rochette at Nacional, it's more significant. And this week, or not this week, I think in 2 weeks, there is the possibility of the final for the Uruguayo, the Campeonato Uruguayo, if Liverpool, or if Nacional beat Liverpool. If they do not, and Liverpool beat Nacional, there will be a two-legged final. But
They
just
have
one,
they have three lives.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't, yeah, the format that I think we can have another discussion on this one. But yeah, your feeling about Suarez, and what you've seen or what you've got from him back in Nacional, and yeah, overall, what's your
Um,
take?
in terms of what it meant for the league, it's a great symbol. I think internationally it gained positive headlines, and this the moment where I think it struck everybody internationally was the moment where Nacional had a first away game. I forget what team they were playing at, and there was a video of Suarez coming into the stadium and the infrastructure of the stadium, and he was basically walking through like someone's backyard
Yeah,
to get to the stadium, and to see that somebody to see a player like Suarez who half a year before that was at Atletico Madrid in the best infrastructure, the best facilities, everything at sort of his fingertips in Europe, to come to Uruguay and not even put up a single face or complaint. And he's been so friendly, and he's taking pictures with everybody and talking to everybody. And really, like, I feel like he knows that this is the end of his career, and he's just absorbing all the love that the Uruguayan people have given him over the last 10 years, because without that love, we wouldn't have gotten the Suarez that we did from after his difficult moments, in particular, the most difficult being after the Brazil World Cup. The a suspension and a ban, which is far too long in my opinion. But anyways, I will always hold that against FIFA, because we would have had Suarez in a couple more international tournaments, and a prime Suarez as well. But besides that point, when playing for Nacional itself, I think Nacional, they understand that it would have negatively affected some parts of their team because it would have kind of disrupted things, but they're willing to let that go to let Suarez play on the team. But Suarez is also has brought so much benefit and so much motivation to the younger players on the team, and the culture of the team, and the fan base has been 100% behind the team, both economically and sort of through like spiritually, I guess. But
yeah,
in terms of on-field performances, he's been okay. He's been all right. But the Uruguayan league is very difficult to sort of play in.
No, that's true. I mean, that's also a thing because the statistics are okay, but they're not exceptional. And
No.
and what you would think, if you're not taking things into account, is Suarez coming from Spain, uh, being the one that led Atletico 2 years ago to the title. Why he scores 20 goals in 10 games, for example. I mean, it's saying something really ridiculous now, but the thing is, it's just like it's such a different kind of football, and it's also completely it's a fight constantly.
Yes, I understand that, and that is definitely something to take into consideration. But the Suarez that I saw at Nacional, it became very evident the physical deficiencies in his game, the lack of movement that he had. I think stood out a lot more at Nacional than it did at Atletico Madrid, for example.
Yes.
I really was seeing like, wow, like he is very much limited in his movements and what he can do. But the fact that there are those moments of quality, the two moments of quality that come to mind in the past few months were number one, the goal in the Clásico, which was,
Yeah. Right.
of course. And number two being the assist that he gave. I forget two, but it was with the chest where they
Yeah.
play on the ball and he chests it over. When have you seen a goal like that in the Uruguayan league? Give me a break. But
No, that's true.
but we'll see. And he still has characteristics that are of benefit to the national team.
Yeah, I also think we might have seen. We also saw it against Canada, but we've probably seen what we are gonna see in World Cup with Suarez. Probably, if we're playing in a two striker system, which I think we are gonna do, he will be the one dropping a little bit deeper and being more of the playmaking type, which we know he's proven to be one of a brilliant player at this. But we haven't seen it a lot because he still remains the striker. But probably because of his physical deterioration, it's probably better for him to get a little bit between the lines. But yeah, when you are playing with Messi, firstly, then you are not doing that too much. And when you're going to Atletico as the first choice striker, you're also being a bit well. You're not doing that because you want to be in the box. You have to be in the box to connect with everything that's coming your way. But for Uruguay, with Darwin and Cavani as the other options, which are physically more capable of bullying defenders, Suarez, yeah, maybe a bit of a different role.
I was talking to one of my housemates or people that I'm living with here at university the other day, who's also a football fan, and he brought up to me. Obviously, he's not from Uruguay, so he has a different perspective. And he brought up for me: is there a way that Uruguay can play a system where Suarez, Cavani, and Darwin all play as a front three? And I said, "Oh, is there?" I said, "No, I just don't think that's the case, but I want to know if there is a way."
Well, yeah, to be honest, I also saw this on Twitter from someone, and there is obviously a way because you can think Cavani, Darwin, and Suarez as a number 10, like Forlan did a little bit sometimes for Uruguay in the 2010, 2011 days. Um, but I don't think we are gonna do this, and also don't think. Well, the only way we could do it is when we play like we play two center backs. We have a center defensive midfielder who probably drops deep when we attack, and then you have Valverde with Bentancur or with De La Cruz maybe as these two box to box players, and you have Oliveira and Pelistri or maybe another one as like wing backs. Then you can do it. But I think it's difficult to do this right now when you have never even done this before. In this, it's not happened. So but you never know. I mean, it
I
is
mean,
promising,
we
but
might see them all three play together. If we're down a goal and there's 5 minutes, 10 minutes
okay,
left in
yeah,
the World
absolutely,
Cup, then
yeah, no, that for sure. But in the way it was back then, it's obviously different because back then you had Suarez and Cavani who were full of life, and still Cavani is quite full of life, and Darwin is probably you could say similar to Cavani back then. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's
remember
hard.
that front three back in 2010-11 of Suarez, Cavani, and Forlan. All three players had very distinct styles of play,
Yeah,
and
really,
that's something that I can't say the same of this potential front three as well. It's because
no,
Darwin and Cavani are too similar in what they offer, and Suarez doesn't have because you already have two sort of big physical number nine, and Suarez isn't that. But if you have already two players who are physical, more dominant, bigger strikers in your front three, the third has to be more dynamic and more movement based. And unfortunately, that's not Suarez at this point.
no, for sure. I mean, Suarez can play or can play make really well, and he used to do it really well. But he's also not as light feeted as Forlan. I mean, he's a different type of player. I mean, it's
Mhm.
hard to
Mhm.
but okay. I mean, we will see. We will talk a lot on here and on Twitter and in our homes everywhere about what we are gonna do because it's 30 days I think now.
1 month.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's crazy. Anyway, we've been going for over 90 minutes, which is great because we've talking about a lot. And everyone who has been there, thank you for being here, putting in the comments or just listening, whatever. It's okay to watch the World Cup, although I think Alessandro and myself, and probably you as well, have also a lot of stuff to do when it comes to school or work, things like this. But to watch the World Cup, we will obviously do this and have probably a way to involve you besides being in the chat and letting your opinions be known. Maybe come on to the stream, but we will well have a look at
And if
this.
people have suggestions as to what we could do for the World Cup or ideas for the tournament, tweet and sort
Yeah,
of let us know as well. And no, I can't wait. I mean, I know there's a lot going on right now. Obviously, we're busy with school and work and life or whatever that be. But La Celeste in the World Cup, that all goes out the window. Give me a break. I'm actually because I'm not my obviously my parents are at the family house, which is three and a half ish hours away from where I am at school. And for the opener, I obviously want to watch it with my father.
yeah.
I'm driving all the way back home for only the Uruguay games in the
No, I
World Cup.
understand.
So,
You should obviously. I understand completely. No, I mean, yeah, it's gonna be great, or we hope it's gonna be great. You never know. I mean, but the all the ingredients are there to, well, to serve up a really good dish this winter or summer, depending on where you live. But yeah, it's gonna be different. But yeah,
there's a quote that in a group chat that one of my friends said because we were talking about how Uruguay was going to do in the World Cup. I'm going to hold on. It said, let's see. Yes, I think this version of the national team is as dangerous as it is unpredictable. I think that's the quote to summarize it.
okay. Well, I see where he's coming from, to be honest, because yeah, we are a little bit still a bit of an unknown quantity because Alonso has been in charge for not even a year or maybe just a year. So that's true. And also, I mean, yeah, Valverde, although he's done well this season, we don't know the upper limits to what he can achieve at the moment. Certainly not when he is putting on the sky blue and being given this leading role. So yeah, I mean, I feel a lot of thoughts popping into my head still to keep going on and talk, but I think it's a good time to call it an end. And
Mhm.
yes, Alessandro, I want to thank you for being here. It's been nice chatting to you, and we will do this
Of
more,
course,
obviously.
thank you for having me on. Of course, if anybody's interested in following my Twitter account, that's Alessandro Vina. Alessandro underscore Vina one on Twitter. I'm pretty sure. I don't even remember my own Twitter handle, but you'll see me tweeting always or liking all of
Yeah,
your posts and replying and stuff. But I can't wait for the World Cup because honestly, there's no other better feeling like the World Cup. And 4 years is a perfect time to wait because it's like different moments in your life and
yeah.
there's so much meaning to it. And honestly, and I'm not even joking when I say this, when it's the World Cup, I can't sleep before a game. But
Oh, but
that's the beauty of it.
that's the thing, and the thing you mentioned, like 4 years, 4 years is just about right. It shouldn't be two,
Yeah.
shouldn't be eight as well, by the way.
Yeah.
But uh, no, so yeah, we're gonna look forward to it and yeah, live to it each day, each minute. So yeah, okay, guys or girls, whoever was watching and today, thank you for watching. You can follow me on Twitter at Uruguaneros, Alessandro at Alessandro Fina one. I normally I put it on the screen, but I forgot it now. I see. But anyway, yeah, hopefully you stay safe and you're enjoying your weekend. And we will see you very soon. Bye bye.